Good evening. Welcome to Loveworld USA News. I'm TGK Andre. First, let's take a quick look at the top stories this evening. President Trump signs an executive order targeting flag burning, teeing up clash with Supreme Court precedent. President Trump threatens lawsuit over Senate's blue slip tradition, says it blocks his nominees. Orders to curb cashless bail in D.C. and nationwide signed. South Korea pitches $150 billion Make America Shipbuilding Great Again package in first Trump-Lee summit. And Mamdani cites Boston and Los Angeles as playbook for resisting Trump policies in New York City. And now to the news. President Donald Trump has signed an executive order directing the Justice Department to vigorously prosecute people who desecrate the American flag, where existing content-neutral laws apply, and to pursue litigation that could clarify the First Amendment's limit in such cases. The directive also calls for immigration consequences for non-citizens who desecrate the flag, including visa revocations, and instructs federal officials to refer cases to state and local authorities as appropriate, the White House said. The move directly tests Supreme Court rulings that protect flag burning as expressive conduct. In Texas v. Johnson in 1989 and United States v. Eichmann in 1990, the court held 5-4 that the flag desecration is speech shielded by the First Amendment, striking down both state and federal bans. The White House frames a new order around established exceptions, such as incitement of imminent lawless action or fighting words, arguing those categories were never protected in the first place. Civil liberties groups quickly criticized the order. The Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression said the administration can't revise the First Amendment with the stroke of a pen, noting that while authorities may enforce neutral laws against arson or disorderly conduct, they cannot criminalize flag burning because the message is offensive. News outlets likewise emphasize that the order does not itself outlaw flag burning and will likely face legal challenges if used to prosecute peaceful political expression. Attorney General Pam Bondi is now tasked with prioritizing enforcement to the fullest extent possible, but it remains unclear what specific cases the DOJ will bring, or how courts will respond, given binding Supreme Court precedent. Any prosecution aimed at the expressive act of burning a flag, rather than independently unlawful conduct surrounding it, would likely become a vehicle to ask the court to revisit Johnson and Eichmann. Watch this.
Sir, this is an executive order on flag burning. It charges your Attorney General.
Would you listen to this? This is very important. Flag burning. All over the country, they're burning flags. All over the world, they burn the American flag. And as you know, through a very sad court, I guess it was a 5-4 decision, they called it freedom of speech. But there's another reason, which is perhaps much more important. It's called death. Because what happens when you burn a flag is the area goes crazy. If you have hundreds of people, they go crazy. You can do other things. You can burn this piece of paper. But when you burn the American flag, it incites riots at levels that we've never seen before. People go crazy. And what the penalty is going to be, if you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail, no early exits, no nothing. You get 1 year in jail. If you burn a flag, you get, and what it does is incite to riot. I hope they used that language, by the way. Did they?
Yeah, incitement is
incite to riot. And you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail. You don't get 10 years, you don't get 1 month. You get 1 year in jail, and it goes on your record. And you will see flag burning stopping immediately, just like when I signed the Statute and Monument Act.
President Donald Trump has announced plans to challenge the Senate's century-old blue slip practice in court, arguing it makes it impossible for him to appoint federal judges and U.S. attorneys when home state senators object. The blue slip is an informal Senate tradition, not a statute, that seeks input from a nominee's home state senators, who signal support or opposition on a blue form before the Judiciary Committee advances the pick. The Constitution assigns nomination power to the President and confirmation to the Senate. How the Senate weighs home state views has varied over time. Trump has recently called the practice a hoax and a scam, and has passed Judiciary Committee veteran Senator Chuck Grassley from Iowa to stop honoring it. Grassley has defended the custom as a valuable norm that preserves state influence and encourages consultation, even as presidents of both parties complain it can be used to stall nominations. The clash comes as Trump's second-term confirmation pace lags his first. He seated 234 judges during his previous term, including 3 to the Supreme Court and 54 to the Court of Appeals, while only a handful have been confirmed so far this year. It is unclear what legal vehicle the White House would use to attack a Senate tradition that rests on chamber prerogatives and internal procedures. Any lawsuit would test the separation of powers and the court's willingness to referee how the Senate processes nominations, even as the administration signals it will keep pushing to move its judicial and U.S. attorney picks. Let's take a look.
I'm going to be filing a lawsuit pretty soon, and I think we're going to be very successful in it. We're going to be filing it through the Department of Justice. That's going to happen. And we're also going to be filing a lawsuit on blue slipping. You know, blue slips make it impossible for me as president to appoint a judge or a U.S. attorney because they have a gentleman's agreement. It's nothing memorialized. It's a gentleman's agreement that's about 100 years old, where if you have a president like a Republican and if you have a Democrat senator, that senator can stop you from appointing a judge or a U.S. attorney in particular. Those are the two, I guess anything, but those are the two that are very important. So Jay Clayton just got approved, and he's in, but he didn't get approved by the senators. He got approved by the court system in New York, which was a great thing. And I had a big victory in New York, I might add. I saved myself $500 million with a fake, corrupt attorney general, a really corrupt person with a corrupt judge who was disgraceful, and they're being mauled right now by everybody. It's so corrupt, and it kept business out of New York, stuff like that. But the appellate division vacated all of that stuff that you read about, and we're going to do a big number on that whole thing. You can't have a corrupt court system. You can't have that. You have to have borders, and you have to have a free press. Otherwise, you don't have a country. But you'll be hearing about the blue slipping, because if you have not, you don't need 2 senators. You just need 1 Democrat senator with a Republican. The only person that I can get approved are Democrats or maybe weak Republicans, but we don't want that. But the only person I will be able to get approved in any of those states where you have a Democrat I can't get a U.S. attorney. I can only get a Democrat U.S. attorney. And this is based on an old custom. It's not based on law, and I think it's unconstitutional, and I'll probably...
President Donald Trump has signed executive orders aimed at rolling back cashless bail in Washington, D.C., and pressuring jurisdictions nationwide to abandon similar policies. A White House fact sheet says the D.C.-focused order ties future federal funding, services, or approvals to changes in the city's pretrial practices, and instructs agencies to place arrestees into federal custody to the fullest extent permitted by law. A companion directive tells federal departments to identify grants that could be suspended or terminated in places that retain cashless bail. The actions come amid an expanded federal anti-crime posture in the Capitol, including deployments of National Guard troops and stepped-up enforcement initiatives. Trump and his allies argue cashless bail fuels repeat offending and undermines public safety. Critics call the directives federal overreach that will fall hardest on low-income defendants. D.C. has operated a cashless bail framework since 1992, with judges weighing danger to the community and flight risk rather than a defendant's ability to pay. The D.C. Council extended pretrial detention authority in July as part of a broader public safety package. Legal tests are likely on multiple fronts, including the administration's leverage over federal funds, the extent of federal custody and local arrests, and long-standing Supreme Court precedent protecting flag burning as expressive conduct. The Justice Department is expected to issue implementation guidance in the coming days, while affected jurisdictions weigh potential lawsuits. The White House says the measures are part of a wider effort to reassert federal authority in the Capitol and to prove and show other cities to follow suit. Watch this.
All over the country, cashless bail, we're ending it, but we're starting by ending it in D.C., and that we have the right to do through federalization. Okay, let's go. Could I ask you to say exactly what this is?
Of course. So, as you've consistently identified, sir, cashless bail policies are a key driver of the disorder we see on city streets all over America. Catch and release system allows criminals to keep going back out onto the street and reoffending. What this executive order does, it charges your attorney general with identifying jurisdictions all over the country that have cashless bail policies, and then it withholds or revokes federal funds and grants that are flowing to those jurisdictions to ensure that we're only supporting the people who have reasonable common sense policies around crime.
So what area does it cover?
Potentially anywhere that has a cashless bail policy. So some of the largest cities, some of the most left-wing states in America
Almost
have adopted.
all of them, right?
Illinois would be a great example of that, sir.
Oh, they have a great cashless bail. You don't even have to go to court sometimes. No, Illinois, I love that state. It's a great state, but it's run so badly by Pritzker. They threw him out of the family business and he becomes governor. Now he wants to run for president. I don't think that's going to happen. Okay, we'll sign right here, right?
Sir.
South Korea's new president, Lee Jae-myung, met with President Donald Trump at the White House with a headline offer to help revive U.S. shipbuilding. A $150 billion plan dubbed Make American Shipbuilding Great Again. The package, presented as part of last month's tentative trade framework, envisions building new U.S. shipyards, training American shipbuilders, and supporting U.S. Navy maintenance, an appeal to Trump's push to reshore critical industrial capacity as tensions with China and North Korea rise. The summit aimed to firm up a July deal that paired a proposed 15% U.S. tariff on South Korean goods, down from a threatened 25% with broader South Korean investment and energy purchases. A White House official said talks would cover North Korea, defense posture, maritime security, trade barriers, and American shipbuilding. Trump injected uncertainty with the social post suggesting a purge or revolution in South Korea. He later told reporters he had heard of raids on churches and would raise the matter privately. Seoul's shipbuilding push targets a sector where the U.S. now accounts for under 1% of global output, far below China, South Korea, and Japan. Lee is expected to visit a Philadelphia shipyard acquired by South Korea's Hanwha Group to showcase early momentum. Analysts say the plan could be both strategic and symbolic, embedding Korean technology and know-how in U.S. yards while countering Beijing's maritime footprint and supporting American naval readiness. Underpinning the talks are familiar fault lines: tariffs and market access, military cost sharing, and how much the nearly 30,000 U.S. troops on the peninsula should focus on deterring Pyongyang versus freeing capacity for China contingencies. Lee, a liberal who backs the alliance but favors pragmatic ties with China, is seeking predictability after months of political turbulence in Seoul. North Korea, meanwhile, has dismissed further denuclearization talks absent recognition as a nuclear power, even as U.S. ROK forces conduct annual drills. What emerges from the summit will shape the industrial trade and security agenda heading into the fall, with a possible Trump visit to a U.S. yard to spotlight any shipbuilding commitments. Let's take a look.
In their first summit meeting, South Korean President Lee and U.S. President Donald Trump unveiled a massive $150 billion shipbuilding package, branded Make America Shipbuilding Great Again. The ambitious proposal aims to revive America's struggling shipbuilding industry while deepening economic and defense ties between Seoul and Washington. Under the plan, South Korea, already a global leader in shipbuilding, would inject investment, technology, and expertise into U.S. shipyards, with the goal of boosting jobs, strengthening naval capacity, and countering growing competition from China. Both leaders framed the deal as a cornerstone of their renewed partnership, with Trump calling it a historic win for American workers, and Lee highlighting it as a strategic alliance for shared security and prosperity.
The news will be back after this break. Don't go anywhere.
Pastor Chris, in 1 Billion Homes Project, is all about making sure the voice of our man of God, Pastor Chris Oyakhilome, arrives exactly when someone needs it the most. It's a global campaign to saturate the world with the gospel of our Lord Jesus like never before.
The gospel is going to go into places that it never was before, into disciplines and areas that it never was before, and establish a higher way of life.
Make a global impact today with your sponsorship of Pastor Chris in 1 Billion Homes Project. For every home you sponsor, you send the gospel where it's never gone. You become the reason someone receives life, a second chance, and finds Jesus. Through the dynamic Pastor Chris in 1 Billion Homes Project, we've been able to expand our global mission, touching more souls, more regions, and producing a wave of powerful testimonies from people whose lives have been forever changed. Your financial support as a Loveworld USA partner is not just generous, it's supernatural power for global impact. Let's keep sending the gospel into every home through the Pastor Chris in 1 Billion Homes Project. Sign up today and sponsor any of the following categories.
It's time for you to give the right sacrifice, the right seed, because it's time for you to get the right harvest.
You can sponsor Pastor Chris in 1 Billion Homes Project by calling or going on our website now. Sign up to be Pastor Chris in 1 Billion Homes Project partner today. God bless you.
Welcome back. New York City Democratic mayoral nominee Zohran Mamdani on Monday said Boston and Los Angeles offer a model for how to fight President Donald Trump's second-term agenda, arguing that the best strategy is to fight him, not cower or collaborate. Speaking to reporters in Brooklyn, Mamdani appeared to jab former Governor Andrew Cuomo, a rival in the race, while promising confrontation over federal moves that affect city policy. Pressed on how he would respond if the administration moved to eliminate cashless bail in New York City, Mamdani vowed to oppose any federal effort to override local criminal justice policies. He pointed to Boston Mayor Michelle Wu's reinforcement of the city's Trust Act, which limits local cooperation with federal immigration authorities, and to Los Angeles' officials' legal and political pushback during this year's clashes over deportation operations and public order responses. Mamdani also framed resistance as intentional and international in scope, citing Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum's rejection of a U.S. troop presence tied to border enforcement. Closer to home, he criticized Trump's Big Beautiful Bill, claiming it would increase the uninsured and reduce nutrition benefits. Republicans countered that the legislation targets waste, fraud, and abuse, particularly in Medicaid. The remarks capped Mamdani's 5 boroughs against Trump tour and come as blue city leaders weigh legal challenges and legislative safeguards against federal directives on policing, immigration, and public benefits. Mamdani said New York should use every tool available, from court fights to local ordinances, to preserve city priorities while federal-state disputes continue. Watch this.
The best way to fight Donald Trump is to do exactly that. It's to fight him. It's not to cower, it's not to collaborate, it's not to call him. And if when Donald Trump said that we should get rid of congestion pricing, the move that New York had taken would have been to get rid of it, we would never have had something which has achieved so many of the very reasons that so many, including those here, fought for it. And yet what we've seen is that as that policy has become more popular, as it's shown its effectiveness, we hear less and less about it from the Trump administration. The Trump administration is one that we can see a model for how to fight it across this country. We can see that in Mayor Wu in Boston. We can also see it internationally with President Sheinbaum of Mexico, where it is through strength, it is through belief in the convictions that you hold in the very fabric of the city you represent, that you are able to fight back against an administration that is seemingly hell-bent on tearing apart this city, and doing so most especially through legislation that will throw millions of New Yorkers off their health insurance, cut SNAP benefits from the hungry, and will make it even more difficult to afford to live in the most expensive city in the United States of America.
Do you think a lawsuit, by the way, or what is there a specific response or just something we're going to fight?
I think you have to use every single.
President Donald Trump has defended the federal government's 10% stake in Intel, calling it a windfall for taxpayers and vowing to pursue similar arrangements. In a Morning Post, he said the position, which he valued at roughly $11 billion, cost the government zero out of pocket and pledged to make deals like that all day long. Intel shares are up about 28% this month amid the announcement and broader bets on a U.S. chip-making revival. The state combines common equity with support tied to the CHIPS and Science Act and is intended to shore up domestic semiconductor manufacturing. White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett said more transactions of this kind are possible, potentially beyond semiconductors. Supporters argued the move converts traditional grants into an asset that could appreciate, aligning public investment with taxpayer upside. Skeptics counter that nothing in the CHIPS law authorizes the government to buy stock, and warns of conflict when Washington becomes a corporate shareholder. Former NEC Director Larry Lindsey defended the structure as swapping subsidies for equity, while Representative Thomas Massey criticized this as mission creep that could compromise privacy and competition if regulators play favorites. Intel, led by CEO Lip Bhutan, said the partnership underscores its commitment to keep leading-edge logic R&D and manufacturing in the U.S. The company is still stabilizing its finances, reporting a second quarter loss of $2.9 billion on $12.9 billion in revenue. The administration portrays the investment as both industrial policy and a template for future deals designed to accelerate strategic manufacturing while giving taxpayers a direct stake in the outcome. Let's take a look.
In a move stirring both applause and alarm, the Trump administration has defended its $11 billion equity stake in chipmaker Intel, making the U.S. government the company's largest shareholder. Intel has warned that the deal could damage its global business, which relies heavily on international sales, and could even trigger backlash from foreign governments. The company also noted the government's stake could grow larger if domestic manufacturing targets aren't met. Despite those concerns, White House officials signaled that this is just the beginning.
Keurig Dr. Pepper has announced its decision to acquire Dutch coffee group JDE Peet's in an all-cash deal valuing the company at around $18.4 billion. KDP will pay 31.85 euros per share in cash, a 33% premium to JDE Peet's 90-day volume-weighted average price. JDE Peet's will also pay its previously declared 0.36 euros dividend before closing. After the deal closes, KDP plans to separate its operations into two independent, publicly traded companies: Beverage Co., the North American soft drinks and refreshment, and the Global Coffee Co., a pure-play coffee business. CEO Tim Kofer will lead Beverage Co., while CFO Sudhanshu Priyadarshi will become CEO of Global Coffee Co. Global Coffee Co.'s portfolio will include Keurig, Jacobs, L'Or, and Peet's, with roughly $16 billion in annual sales across more than 100 countries. KDP's beverage portfolio, Dr. Pepper, Canada Dry, 7-Up, A&W, and others, remains with Beverage Co., allowing each company to pursue distinct growth and investment strategies. Shares of KDP fell during Monday trading, reflecting investor focus on deal size and leverage, while the transaction marks what KDP called a transformational moment intended to create a new global coffee champion alongside a focused North American beverage leader. Watch this.
A transformational move, one that will effectively unwind the 2018 mega merger that first brought Keurig and Dr. Pepper together. The takeover is also expected to deliver $400 million in cost synergies over the next 3 years.
The news continues after this break. Stay with us.
It's easy to set up, quick to start, and packed with value. Smarter streaming starts here with the Alpha TV Stick. Just plug and stream anytime, anywhere. Discover a curated lineup of content designed to inspire, live broadcasts and global events, inspirational films and series, children's programming, healing and teaching sessions, all on demand.
With millions of downloads worldwide, the Alpha TV app is transforming lives across the globe. And now, we're on a mission to reach 1 billion downloads of the Alpha TV app, and you can be part of it. Join the global wave with 1 billion Alpha TV app downloads worldwide. Bring the higher life into every home. Order your Alpha TV Stick today and experience smarter streaming. Alpha, the higher life is here.
Welcome back. Israel has carried out airstrikes in Yemen, hitting sites in Houthi-controlled Sana'a after the Iran-aligned group launched what Israeli officials described as a new type of missile toward Israel. The Israel Defense Forces said the operation targeted a military site that includes the presidential palace complex, 2 power plants, and a fuel storage facility, calling the strikes a response to repeated attacks on Israeli territory. At least 4 people were killed and 67 wounded, according to figures released by the Houthi-run Al Masirah TV, which cited Yemen's Ministry of Health. An Israeli Air Force official said more than 10 fighter jets took part and that the furthest target was roughly 2,000 kilometers, or 1,240 miles, from Israel, underscoring the long-range nature of the mission. Israeli leaders framed the action as deterrence. Defense Minister Israel Katz warned the Houthis would pay many times over for each missile launched, while Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the strikes demonstrated Israel's strength and determination. The Houthis accused Israel of aggression and vowed to continue actions in support of Gaza, and Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei praised the Yemeni group's attacks as the right course of action. The strikes followed a Houthi launch on Friday that, according to an Israeli Air Force official, for the first time included a missile equipped with multiple submunitions designed to detonate on impact. Police in the Tel Aviv district reported several sites where interception debris fell. No injuries were reported. Let's take a look.
Yemen's Houthi rebels say Israel has carried out fresh airstrikes on the capital Sana'a. As you can see on your screen, this was aired by Houthi-run Al Masira TV, which reported what it called an Israeli aggression on the city. Though details remain scarce, the strike comes just weeks after Israeli warplanes hit a major power station in the rebel-held capital. On Friday, the Iran-backed Houthis had escalated their attacks, launching a drone and a ballistic missile carrying a cluster bomb warhead at Israel. That assault struck near Ben Gurion Airport outside Tel Aviv, and that assault happened on August 22nd.
The UK government has extended to October 21st its deadline on China's proposal to build what would be Europe's largest Chinese embassy in London, citing the need for more time after Beijing declined to fully explain blacked-out sections and submitted floor plans. The decision had been due September 9th. Planning advisor DP9, acting for Beijing, told officials it was neither necessary nor appropriate to provide more detailed internal layouts beyond unredacted plans showing main uses. Ministers had sought clarity after encountering multiple redactions. China's team argued supplemental drawings already supplied were sufficient. The project at Royal Mint Court, near the Tower of London, has faced years of resistance from local residents, lawmakers, and Hong Kong pro-democracy advocates over security and surveillance concerns. Campaigners called Beijing's explanations inadequate, while the Chinese embassy voiced serious concern, saying host countries have an international obligation to facilitate diplomatic premises and urging swift approval. China bought the site in 2018. A local council rejected planning permission in 2022. The case was later called in by central government and President Xi Jinping as Prime Minister Keir Starmer to intervene last year. The revised timetable sets up a politically sensitive autumn ruling with diplomatic and security stakes for both sides. Watch this.
The United Kingdom has delayed its decision on China's proposed super embassy in London, following a dispute over redactions in planning documents. The embassy project, which would be Beijing's largest diplomatic compound in the world, has faced growing scrutiny from local officials and residents concerned about transparency and security. Officials say the redacted plans raised questions over what details were being withheld, fueling further opposition to the project. The proposed site, in East London near the Tower of London, has already sparked debate, with campaigners...
Just before we end the news, let's take a quick look at tomorrow's weather forecast. And to end the news today, a quick recap of the headlines. President Trump signs an executive order targeting flag burning, teeing up clash with Supreme Court precedent. President Trump threatens a lawsuit over Senate blue slip tradition, says it blocks his nominees. Orders to curb cashless bail in D.C. and nationwide signed. South Korea pitches $150 billion Make America Shipbuilding Great Again package and first Trump-Lee summit. And Mamdani cites Boston and Los Angeles as playbook for resisting Trump policies in New York City. And that's the news for today. Join us at the same time tomorrow for more news. I'm TGK Andre. Good night, God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.